Welcome to Blending the Family, the podcast. Topics can range from what is good wine on a first date, parenting tips, and not being afraid to ask for help. Here's your host, who was told by a guest at one time that he was a podcast influencer. How about them apples? Well, you know the truth about that statement. Tommy Maloney.
Welcome to another episode of the podcast known as Blending the Family. I am your host, Tommy Maloney. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for liking it, sharing, caring, whatever else you wonderful, wonderful people do. And if this is your first time listening, thank you so much. I greatly, greatly appreciate it. How you been? You having a good day? My day sucked. Ass. Big time. Anyway, so I'm just going to move right in. This is part two. A little echoey here in the hotel room. Coming to you from Southeast Texas. Where am I? Laco? I think that's how you pronounce it. Laco, Texas. It's actually pretty nice. I was expecting more desert type looking and rural, but no, it's pretty nice here. But I apologize, a little echoey here in the hotel room. And I don't understand one thing, and I hope I don't sound like an asshole when I say this, but I keep getting handicap rooms. I know I'm a little old, but a little frustrating that I keep getting rooms that could be used for people who might need this type of room. And I'm not naming the brand of where I'm at, but I have yet to get any hot water coming out of the shower. Get hot water when I shave, but no hot water when I shower, which is fine because I'm trying to do more cold showers to get my day going. So there you go. All right. Part two of my interview with my dearest friend, Denise, one of my true, dearly lovable friends I've known for 20-something years, I think. And on part two, she actually turns the tables and starts interviewing me. So, there you go. I'm super excited, and I hope it seems like a lot of you were enjoying that first part. So maybe we'll do maybe some other friends. We had Scott Clark on, good friend of the show's, and he's begging to come back on. I'm like, cool. But maybe we'll bring Denise back too, because I'm looking at numbers, and a lot of you really liked and love. And who shouldn't? We all should like and love Denise and anyone else who's on this podcast. So I don't want to go into a lot of details. Like I said, it's been a really shitty day. It's been a really fucked up day. And as you can tell by the language, it has really, really been a really, really bad fucking day. Matter of fact, I don't know when I'll do this, but if you are on LinkedIn, find me, The Tommy Maloney on LinkedIn, and you'll see an upcoming article talking about being possibly burnt out, maybe too much people stimulation. As an introvert, I don't like being around people 24/7. It really overstimulates me, and I get really weird, and so I apologize to anybody who's been in that situation with me, where I'm just like I have to be alone. And so anyway, there you go. All right, part two with Denise, where she reverses the tables and starts interviewing me, which is really cool because this represents what Terry Crews would say, our good friend of the podcast, Terry Crews. And again, if this is your first time listening, we've never met Terry Crews. He's never been on the podcast, but I just love his positivity, and he has a saying, and we're going to do this saying. You want to say it with me? Let's say it together, all right? Here we go. Your success is my success. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for sharing, caring. Have a great day, and enjoy my interview. Actually, it's now Denise's interview, interviewing me, moi, Tommy Maloney, on the podcast known as Blending the Family.
Warning, you're about to listen to a conversation. Please, take a seat, don't drive, and make sure your eyes are on the things they're supposed to be on. Yeah, you, look up.
I have a question for you.
Uh-oh.
That shouldn't be uh-oh. So
Because anytime a woman asks me, I have a question for you, it's always uh-oh. Hello?
yes. That's a story in your own head.
Yes it is. I have a lot of stories in my head.
My question to you, Tommy Maloney, is back to your original question with me about the 100% friend text. And why did you feel like go deeper? Because you told me why you felt that should have been from you, that you weren't being a good friend. Tell me more about why, kind of the unspoken stuff that you and I have never talked about. Why did you feel some sense of guilt or like, oh, that should be for me, not her? Tell me more about that.
Well, when you mention guilt, I have a lot of Catholic guilt, and that I carry that with me on a daily basis.
Unnecessarily, I'll add.
Oh, gosh, yeah, you're right. And no therapist will break me of it. Anyway.
No, but I know a good DNA healer. She can heal you of your DNA.
Will she cure my chakra?
Sure. She'll
Okay.
cure lots of cool stuff. But anyway, go ahead.
When I read that hold on. Take two. Hold on. Let me grab the water. See, now I'm on the spot. So the pressure. I think a lot of it stems when, after the spa closed the second time, and I really felt that I wasn't as supportive for you during that transition. And, again, to bring it to using the Jim Rohn quote, I really don't have a lot of close friends. And it's funny because, like, when my wife and Ann and I will walk into, the local grocery store, in the back of my mind, I have this game in my head. How many people is she going to run into that she knows? And it's funny because at least one person she knows. But she is a very, in my view, an outgoing person. Plus, she's involved in the community. She's involved at church. And so she has a lot of people that she knows. And so I don't have that, which is, I'm someone on the fence going, I need more true friends. But at the same time, I like my alone time. Like, here I am in Salt Lake City recording this with you, and I like my alone time. So after you and I are done recording, I'll go downstairs. I'll go to the restaurant, eat by myself. I'm fine with that. So to someone answer your question, it goes back to when the spa closed, and it was, an end to that business. It was, a new chapter in your life. And I felt a lot of guilt that I never got an opportunity to come down there and see, what you had done with the new place. And you're the closest I hate to dub you this, but you're the closest friend I really have, where I can have, heart-to-heart conversations, where we can have, open conversations, like just last week we had, was it 2 hours on the phone, just having heart-to-heart conversations. And so again, it goes back to, I'll dub it the first part of our conversation, and that is, having true friends and having a circle of friends. And so, again, it was just, I felt a lot of guilt that I felt I wasn't there supporting you as much as I did when you first opened the spa in the original location. And so that's where, when I read that text, that's where my mind went, that I didn't feel like I was being, a good friend to you.
Yeah, super interesting. That goes back. I mean, gosh, we could spawn off of so many different things. I was trying to keep a list of like different follow-up conversations that you and I can have, but being in business and your friends, like, that's a whole other thing. I mean, you could really dedicate a podcast to friendship overall, because I can remember when I first started in 2012, my business, I expected unagreed upon unnecessarily. I expected all my friends to be like, yeah, we'll buy a $50 gift certificate or a $100 gift certificate or whatever. And I was hoping that all my friends would come together and buy enough gift certificates for Christmas that December of 2012 when I opened to pay my rent for January, because I knew I wasn't going to have any customers because I just opened. But the expectation on my part was the lack of interest on the other part. And so that's a fascinating concept, Tommy Maloney, because if one person expects something, it almost immediately declines the interest of the other party, right? So, some of my single friends, well, I thought he was going to call me, or I thought he was going to whatever, she was going to, and nothing happens. And they had a delightful time together, but nothing transforms from it. And I always tell my girlfriends, like, or single guy friends or whatever, it's like, well, was it worth it? Like, is it a person that's worth your time? Then go back and fight for it like anything else in your life. But this world is so, it's funny because as we've grown our recycled consciousness, we've decreased our recycled consciousness with friendships. And we're not willing to do that with just even a human being. The Safeway meat store guy, how you feel going to the grocery store with Ann. Maybe Rob feels that way too. Like, I'm social, I'll talk to anybody, doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
There's some days I don't want to talk to that many people though too, but acknowledgement of just being a human being is something. There's another lady at that same Safeway that I go to that no one ever talks to her, and she used to be a checker, and I noticed that she's just kind of doing stocking now. And she's a really unique looking woman. And I said to her, same thing. I saw her the other day at the grocery store, and I said, hey, lady, I haven't seen you for a while up at the checkout stands. It's nice to see you. And she looked up at me and she said, thank you. Like, I don't know if it was a discipline thing or a choice thing or whatever. None of my business. Don't care. But I acknowledge you. I see you. And, to bring it back again full circle with our friendship conversation is like, how do we see each other virtually when we don't see each other? That might the best profound question I could come up with for you, Tommy.
Well, it's funny you mention that because I think it was Monday night. Was it Monday or Tuesday night? I'm sitting at the hotel restaurant and somewhat eavesdropping on a conversation between these two gentlemen, and they started talking about culture and work culture, and you're talking about virtual, and this is how I could tie it to family, and that is, in my world, I'm on the road Monday through Friday. I don't work in a traditional office. I am, every week I'm somewhere else, or every 2 weeks I'm somewhere else. And so the only company culture I'm dealing with is wherever I'm on site. And so it goes back to, I'm going to plug my first book, 25 Tips for Divorced Dads, because that book came about because I was not in the same household with Connor. So how do I have a relationship with somebody I'm not going to physically see on a consistent basis? How do I keep my marriage with Ann? How do I keep that strong when we only see each other on the weekends? So I try to do my best with little things. So, for example, I've gone back, not as consistent because I forget because I'm old, but when I'm stopping at airports, if I remember, I'll stop at the gift shop, grab postcards. Connor's 16, and I'll still, if I remember, I'll still send him postcards. With Ann, I'll, from time to time, before I leave, I'll take a little piece of paper, write down some kind of little love note, and either stick it in her robe, I'll stick it in a drawer. That way I'm trying my best to stay connected to my family when I'm not there. And so with you and I, it's been really interesting because here we are, we're talking about a text that happened a couple of months ago, and we've had some great conversations as of late on the phone. And so I think that it goes back to having a good circle of friends and having strong human connections with people. And, this is, like I was saying earlier, about I need more people like yourself. I need strong connections. And I want people to challenge me. I want people, again, let's talk about, maybe there was a new book.
Right.
Maybe there was, a TED talk or a TEDx talk that really inspired you, and tell me why, so that's, someone to answer your virtual question. That's where my mind is.
World, it's interesting that the internet kind of started. I listened to a podcast yesterday called 2038, and it was about they interviewed different people that are experts about what our world is going to look like in 2038. Fascinating to me. And the one I listened to was about the internet. And it's interesting, those of us that were around at the inception of the internet, you had to dial up like AOL. You had to have you had to have certain hardware to dial it in. And, I don't know if you remember all that stuff, because I'm much older than you. But it's interesting, the concept of chat rooms was instilled early on with the internet. And I'm like, that's so fascinating. Like, I wonder who I don't know who the grandfather of chat rooms was, but it's almost like coming full circle after all these years of now everybody had free for all to like find and do, and it's like this endless wave of rabbit holes, but people are coming back around to just wanting to chat, just wanting to connect. And I'm not a big Reddit fan, but Rob is, and he's on Reddit all the time. And I was listening to talk radio this morning, and they were talking about Reddit and how many subreddits there are, and it's just massive. It's like rabbit hole after rabbit hole after rabbit hole. So I kind of choose not to go there because I could go down a whole bunch of like UFO and all kinds of things. But I think what's fascinating is that people are coming back around to wanting to chat, to connect, even if it's through keyboard. But how will our society function if we don't know how to work face to face? And to me, you and I, and thank you for doing this tonight, because you and I, this is a great culmination of, it starts with your friends. It starts with what's acceptable and what's not, and how we support each other and how we show up in our own agreements. Because the keyboard warriors that go out there and expect the world to happen, oftentimes I want to ask them, when they chastise XYZ person or this, political person or whatever, have you done that in your own life? And so just like you do with blending the family, it starts with your home. It starts with your own loved ones. And to me, that next level is your friends. And it starts with our friendship. And if you and I can't call each other on, hey, you're being a real jerk about XYZ, and I can't do that with kindness, then maybe we're not supposed to be friends, If there's excuses, if you're, somebody who, I've got a gazillion examples, but another one that comes to mind because I've recently met with a recruiter friend of mine is, I have helped so many people get jobs or at least interview for jobs, and they sabotage it. And it's heart-wrenching. You could just go on and on and on. But those are the friends that your choices as a friend weave you out of my life. Your choices as a friend weave you into my world. And I think that is not what way loosely termed discriminatory. I don't like that people just toss around discrimination and that this person's discriminatory and this person's discriminatory, because I want people to be able to speak their truth with intelligence and kindness behind it, and take that whole word out of our vocabulary at some point. It's abused, it's overused, and I don't like it. In no way am I being discriminatory by saying, I want to choose you as my friend, let's renegotiate our agreements. When you consistently don't have time for me, then you are not my first line friend.
So last week, a friend of mine, I had on my Google Calendar, was his birthday. And so this person, the company I currently work for, he left the company, not on his terms. And so right after it happened, there were several of us reaching out to him, calling him, texting him, even going through, social media, instant messaging him, and he just, as the kids would say, ghosted us. And so I got to a point where, okay, he'll, on his own fruition, he'll reach out, and just on a whim, I texted him to say happy birthday. And it had been about about 6 months since I heard from him. And he responded back. And later on through that night, he actually called me and to say, how sorry he was that he wasn't staying connected and communicating. And I told him, I said, and this is where I love doing this in front of Connor, so he can hear it, that it's okay for one man to say to another man, I love you. So I told my buddy, I said, I will always love you, but you can't do that. We're friends, and I get it. I understand that. However, when we reach out to you, yes, you can go put yourself in timeout. And, when you're ready, But the point is, you can't wait that long. Because there are people that care about you and want to know that you're okay. And he goes, I get it. I'm sorry. So it was a nice way to reconnect. But at the same time, is that a person down the road that I would have to, in no other better terms, fire them as a friend? Because, like you were saying, the law of reciprocation. I cannot say that word. Save my life right now.
Reciprocity, yeah.
Reciprocity. How's that?
What about recidivism?
Yes.
Can you say that word? Yeah, Rob can't say that one either.
No.
Recidivism.
No. Yeah. Yeah. So that's, I'll never forget, there was this guy I grew up with, and he had this motto, and he said, women will come and go in our lives, but the guys will stay together. And like that or not, in my world, it's true, because I still have some guy friends, that I'm still somewhat connected to. But I think if we want to take that statement to another level, your true friends will stay with you longer.
I like that. And so that's a great segue, because you mentioned I don't have a lot of close friends, and then you also mentioned true friends. So I'm going to throw it back to you, Tommy Maloney. What's the difference between close and true friends? I know.
Wow.
You didn't know you were going to be interviewed also.
Oh, I had a feeling. I had a sneaky feeling.
20 years, you kind of know me.
Oh, gosh, yes.
I love it, but no,
Just
it's
kinda.
a great question.
Just kind of.
Because I actually wrote that down on my notes here, because you said I don't have a lot of close friends, and then later you talked about true friends. So whether now or you want to give us a teaser or something like that, but I think that's poignant to discuss, because what is the difference?
Well, part of me wants to say there's no real difference, but the other part of me wants to say, a close friend is somebody that, you can call just to say hi, but a true friend is somebody that you could call to say, will you come and bail me out? Or I'm hurting. Will you talk to me? Is a true friend. Close friend, I don't think you can have a deep conversation. And again, to use, well, not to always pick on the men, but I still, even in 2019, I still feel that men don't have that openness to say to another man, I'm hurting.
Right.
Can we talk? Because they're possibly going to feel that they're going to be judged, laughed at, what have you, and then where are you at? You're back to square one. And so I think there is a difference between a close friend and a true friend. And hopefully I might get myself into trouble saying this, but I'm hoping that your significant other is actually a true friend as well.
Say that again.
I think your significant other should also be a true friend.
For sure. But, again, we can spawn off to so many different, subreddits of our own. For sure, because I rely on Rob's advice for things that I wouldn't normally run past you or, any girlfriends that I go on hikes with or whatever. There's different circumstances and different topics for different people. But even last night, with my work, he gave me great advice. I was able to say, what about this? What about this? What about this? And it's nothing I can solve. And I think if anything, what my relationship with him has been is that I don't ever ask him a question that I want him to actually resolve. And he understands that now. So that's our communication. So when I ask him, what about this? What about this? If it's technicalities or it's family or whatever, I'm not asking him to fix it. Because men typically, historically, have always wanted to fix things. Oh, your light bulb's out? Let me come fix your light bulb. And that's just genetically made up in men. Women come about, and especially now that everything is shifting with us being in the workplace and careers and all this and that over the last just hundreds of years, people think it's archaic to not talk about certain things, but it's women have only been doing this for less than 100 years. It's put it in context. I don't want to go back to history. I heard a talk show radio guy say, I don't want to go back to, resolving historical problems. I don't either. So my point is that I heard a really beautiful, I love just, I tap around on talk radio everywhere, left, right, center, religious, whatever, because I'm just curious what people are saying. And this particular gentleman was saying he was a black man and he was tired of people trying to resolve issues that have already been done for 100 years. And can't we finally move on, kind of perspective. We have to be looking forward instead of backwards. We have to be focused on how we find commonalities instead of differences. We have to elect people who have intellect instead of stance. Just taking a stance for the taking of a stance. I'm not going to name any names because I don't want certain names to be named again. I just don't want certain people to keep getting recognition for ignorance.
Well, I want to go back to these conversations you're having with your boss. Is there a specific question that you've asked him? And again, like you're saying, you don't want him to fix it, but what type of question and dialogue were these conversations?
I'm not sure what you're referring to. My current boss
you?
or an old boss?
Yeah, because you were saying that you have these conversations with your boss about things, and that you don't want him to necessarily resolve them. But
yeah, I think I was meaning someone else, not my current boss.
You want to help.
But when I bring up issues to anyone in my life, my friends, my family, coworkers, I'm bringing it up and I'm going, do you see an issue? Well, fascinating. Most people will shy away from giving their opinion, even verbally. So again, Tommy, I mean, it's like way too much, like 2 hours into this to get into, but that's a whole other topic, because if you've hidden behind a keyboard for your thoughts, your beliefs, your desires, and then someone confronts you face to face and says, what do you think about this? And you're like, oh, I don't know, like, see me online. That's really hard for somebody like me who reads body language. I want to hear your connotation of your voice. I want to hear how you respond. I want to, like, did you ever see the TV show Lie to Me?
No.
Oh, fabulous. You have to watch it. As a psychology guru like you are, you have to watch it. It didn't last. And so sad to me, because I think they cut it off because they didn't want the public to learn the techniques that this guy did. But you can find it on Netflix or, one of those or whatever, Hulu or something. But the premise of it was, this guy was brilliant at reading body language. He knew whether you were going to say yes or no before you spoke based on your body language. It's brilliant. And I love the actor. He's this British actor or whatever. I can send you the link to it. But it's that premise. Like, why do we need to be ahead of something? Like, we're always trying to play chess with each other instead of showing up. Like, when I was a kid and we went to the grounds to play ball, to play whatever ball we were playing, soccer, baseball, tetherball. That brings back memories. I don't know if you remember tetherball.
I lost all the time because I was short.
Me too. But I loved playing because I would be in the ring with people who just wanted to play the game. And now we've expanded our ring of trust. And so, I'm still going to bring it back to the 100% friendship, because I think we've expanded our ring to the point that we have blended who is trustworthy and who is not into our own individual worlds through social media, through cell phones, whatever it may be. But Tommy Maloney, I strongly feel that is not irreplaceable. It's not irrevocable. We can bring that back so easily just by speaking to the meat guy at Safeway, just by looking at each other in the eye and reevaluating what our expectations are with the people who are involved in our lives. That's my peace out.
You dropping the mic right here?
I'm dropping the mic on that. That was
Okay.
pretty good.
Okay.
No, you can still ask questions, but
Well, I was just going to say, for me, I've been playing around with, the two different ways I record podcasts. One is, this way using just the audio, just because we're not seeing each other, or,
right.
I've done, using video conference and then recording, the audio and the video. And it goes back to what you're talking about, seeing facial expressions and body language. And I really like this format that you and I are doing today, because I don't want to see that other person's body language. If I ask a question and I can see in their eyes, they're going, that is the dumbest question I've ever heard. And so I like, even though what they say, our communication is 80% physical versus verbal. I like the opportunity just to have, again, what you and I are doing today is just having a conversation. And I think I think the video takes away, in my view, of the conversation.
It does with, and I use the word maturity. Maybe because I'm going to be shifting into my 50s pretty soon, but I use the word maturity a lot. And I think what you're saying is that when the maturity is there, the vocals should speak for themselves. What is irritating for me when I listen to certain podcasts, not yours, other people's podcasts, is when they go, yeah, and they hurry the conversation, and they say and they say, so many things that are discrediting the communication of the people. So I can see the pros and cons of it. And then the video part of it, I think there's value to that, but you definitely have to agree to being pretty whatever. I don't think I've introduced you to my next door neighbor, but I will send you the link to her. She's got a whole virtual marketing company that she does audio casts, video casts, like all the stuff. And I think there's a time and a place for it. I mean, I want to see facial expressions sometimes. When is it necessary? That's up to each person. She makes that decision based on what it's going to do for her viewers. So she's a marketing guru. Right. I don't want to make my choices around marketing, and you and I have talked about that a lot over the years. And that's what partly, a piece of why I love you too, is because you're not a sellout. You wouldn't be like, well, somebody comes along and says, well, I'm going to give you X amount of dollars to buy your podcast or to buy your this or that. But you're going to have to do it this way. I just don't see you doing that. And she's not a sellout. She just does what she does. But it doesn't work for everybody. I would like to be present when it's important,
What do you mean? What do you mean by that? Present when it's important versus being present when it's not important?
Well, present verbally versus present visually. So
Explain.
If you and I do something and it takes off and gets a lot of interest, by all means, put me on camera. Like, I'm not trying to hide behind anything, but right now I'm kind of like makeup off and, in a tank top. I would present myself as being professional and whatever visually too, because I'm not stupid. I'm not going to show up with tank tops on and, whatever. I want to be real, but there's also reality to aging and wrinkles and makeup and everything else. So, does that make sense?
Well, for the record, I'm not wearing any makeup either.
Okay, good. But you know what I mean. Like, a girl wants to feel pretty, no matter what. So I took off my makeup and then I was like, oh my God, does he actually want me to do video? Like, I had thought about it after the fact and I was like, well, I'm just going to tell Tommy Maloney we're not doing video tonight because I got my hair up and I had a hat on today and, it ain't going to happen. But I mean, I would love to be at the point in my life that I could just say, like, whatever rolls. I'm close, but I'm not that close because I'm almost 50.
Been there, done that.
So, can we wrap this up, my dear? I love you. I would love to wrap it up from my perspective and then have you wrap it up from your perspective.
Well, my perspective is it's my turn. I have to go pee and I'm hungry because I never eat lunch or breakfast. So I'm going to turn it back to you and listen to your perspective.
Okay. So my favorite points of the whole night is that, number one, I had no idea why we were even starting or doing this tonight, and that friendship was key for you, and that makes my heart so happy. So I will say I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you a million times over because I love you, Tommy Maloney. I always will. And I hope to be in your inner ring for the rest of eternity. We have a long ways to go with friendships, agreements, expectations, reciprocity, not you and I. But how do people do that out in the world? Who is your friend? I think there's a lot of conversations that can be had about that. And your comments about close versus true friends, there's so much digging into so much goodness we can do. And I call it digging into goodness. Just dig into the good stuff. Because at the end of the day, I want to have more Tommy Maloneys in my life who are like, yep, I got your back. Yep, I got your back. And I think most of the world does. The last part that I want to say, and then, I love Guru Geeks. So if you ever want to have a podcast called Guru Geeks, I love that. Lie to Me, I want you to see that video and stuff for sure. And take out the sacrifice. Take that word out of your vocabulary. Excuse me.
Bless you.
It's a very it's a very intense word. Words have meanings. If you can say a word and you can say sacrifice, and you can say it like there's a whole thing, ERBM or whatever. There's language behind all of that. But if you can do that and use that word like softly, have at it. But I don't feel that from you or get that from you. And then the Catholic guilt. I can help with that. I've deciphered a lot of Catholic guilt. That's how I was raised too, my brother. And I love Catholicism. In fact, I'm going to a Catholic funeral at the Holy Ghost Church downtown on Saturday morning, which is such a beautiful place, such a beautiful place. I can find my peace. It's okay. God doesn't expect all of us to be the same. So that's my peace out. I love you, Tommy Maloney. What do you got for me?
You didn't like the Stubborn Stinkers as a name of a podcast?
I do like stubborn stinkers.
Or I like the Guru Geeks as well. I'm just thankful, grateful, blessed that you and I met at that company and have maintained this relationship for all these years. And it was a now I'm afraid to use words because
I would just use
it
words.
might come back and haunt me. But
You have editing capabilities. I don't.
Yeah, but I don't like editing. I like keeping it real, keeping it natural. You were having a rough week last week, and when you texted me, and I was just like, well, my first thought was, let me call you. And so 2 hours later, after that, I think we solved the world's problems. We didn't share it with anybody else, so the world is still screwed. Like I said, I wanted to, have this conversation with you for a while about your text to me because I wanted to know the ins and outs of it and, what is it that you needed from me? And so I think we've somewhat covered it, but at the same time, I've always loved your thought process and your heart, and you know me, I'm always in your corner as well, and the selfish person in me wants you to not work a day job, but own another business, because I love that, watching your process. So that's where I'm just going to leave it at. I'm just happy that you accepted the invitation to come on.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You are delightful in so many ways, and your belief in me, and that is friendship. That's a great summary, Tommy Maloney, because your belief in me is bigger than my own belief in myself. That's friendship.
I think you just dropped the mic.
I thought I did once before, but I didn't until now.
Thank you for listening to Blending the Family, the podcast. Thank you for listening. And it once again proves that anyone can host a podcast. Wait. Please leave a rating and review, however you get this podcast, whether it's through the mail or from your neighbor or listening in under the couch. I don't know. You tell me.